I played on a lot of private servers throughout the years, and the other day me and my buddies were talking about all those private servers, and it got me wondering, what is the best private server I played on? And I don't mean the one that I had the most fun on, because admittedly, there were a couple of private servers that I had a lot of fun on, but in terms of quality were questionable to say the least. I'm talking about the best in terms of scripting, community, population, and all that jazz. So today, I'm going to give you my top 5 best private servers in my humble opinion. So without further ado, let's get started. So, starting off the list with number 5, which is the Phoenix Emerald Dream server. Now this requires a little bit of explanation. You see, the Phoenix Emerald Dream server was a private server that existed years before Elysium, Nostalrius, Kronos, and a bunch of other servers. This server was launched in August of 2012, so that's almost 8 years ago. And during this time of the late 2000s and early 2010s, most private servers, well, they were kind of a joke with 100 times leveling rate, weird custom NPCs that would give you useless vanity items, and scripting that would make Molten WoW seem like a masterpiece. And then there was Phoenix. And Phoenix, while definitely not perfect, was one of the first projects or teams, so to say, that would release a somewhat proper vanilla server. Phoenix knew 3 vanilla servers, which were Warsong, a 12 times leveling rate vanilla server, which was also the very first private server I played on, Alakir, which was an instant level 60 server, and then there was the Emerald Dream, a Blizz-like vanilla server with no cash shop, all the rates set to 1 times, and no custom stuff. And well, back then, it was actually a really good attempt of simulating WoW Vanilla. You know, all those private servers that advertised on those top 100 websites and had things like fully scripted, no lag, true Blizz-like, 99% uptime, and other cliche buzzwords thrown in there? Well, Phoenix actually delivered that. For the most part, of course. I mean, the server was still plagued with random disconnects that just came out of nowhere, and people have pointed out that some of the staff members that worked for Phoenix were just terrible, but all in all, it was probably one of the first proper attempts at hosting a true Blizz-like vanilla server. I know vanilla gaming was also really old and probably older than the Emerald Dream, but that wasn't really Blizz-like with very high leveling rates, a cash shop, and leveling content that was much more buggy. Now, I didn't play on that server a whole lot, mainly because my friends played on the Warsong server, and after playing on that server a whole bunch, I didn't have enough motivation to start a whole new character on the Emerald Dream and level that to 60 with only 1 times experience rates. But for the time that I did play there, I was thoroughly impressed with what Phoenix had made, and I can't tell you how many people I heard talking about how good the server was back in its heyday. Of course, if you would compare it to a modern server like Kronos, Elysium, or Nostalrius, it wouldn't be able to hold a candle. But for something that came out years before those were ever a thing, it was pretty impressive, and that's why I just had to put it on the number 5 spot. Number 4 is Gamer District. Gamer District was a 7 times rate Wrath Lich King server, and yes, it had a cash shop. So yeah, not exactly Blizz-like, but this is not about the most Blizz-like server, but just what I think were the best servers that I played on in terms of quality. And well, to put it simple, Gamer District's old 7 times rate realm was probably the best scripted Wrath Lich King realm I have ever played on. Especially after they updated the damage values with a little help from Warmane, and it was a super solid experience. I had a couple of friends who played there, which invested a lot of time on that server, as well as some other Wrath Lich King servers before, and they also said that Gamer District offered them the best experience. One of them was also a lore master there, and out of all the quests he had to do to earn that title, he said he found just 1 bugged quest. So that goes to show just how impressive the scripting was. Of course, Gamer District wasn't perfect. I mean, their community was decent, but I've definitely seen some private servers with a healthier and friendlier community. But regardless, I did have a great time playing there, and I had multiple characters there that were max level and had some decent gear, including my Alliance Balance Druid. Yes, I was Alliance at some point, mainly because the people I knew who played there were also Alliance, so my hands were kinda tied. Fun fact, most of the Wrath Lich King footage that I used in my Underdogs of Raiding video series was recorded on Gamer District. Of course, Gamer District went downhill after releasing a brand new 1 times rate Wrath Lich King realm. The population of the 2 servers was split, and as far as I know, people were not impressed that much by their new realm. So long story short, their new server wasn't a success, and because their old realm took a huge hit in population, it eventually became so low it wasn't able to support a healthy community anymore. So yeah, definitely a good server, but not exactly perfect, which is why it's only at number 4. Then we move on to Primal Wow, which is probably my most favorite server and the server I had the most fun on. Though like I said, this is not a list about which server I had the most fun on, but one which is based on quality. And well, Primal Wow was in my opinion a really good server in terms of quality. And another thing it had going for it was its originality. You see, there are more 3.3.5 private servers than there are bots in Classic WoW. So to see a team do something different with a 3.3.5 core was very interesting. Primal WoW was a Wrath of the Lich King private server, but it was locked at level 60. So while you had the skills and talents from Wrath of the Lich King, the highest content available was the raids of vanilla, which meant that all of a sudden classes feel much more different and specs all of a sudden become much more viable. Hunters were doing way more DPS compared to Classic WoW, same for Boomkins, and the list goes on and on. Because of this, people in Raid did way more DPS and healing in Classic, so they had to alter the damage values and nerf the healing to still make it a challenge. So to summarize, it was a Wrath server with a unique twist, and their ambitious idea of buffing bosses and nerfing healing to the point where it becomes a good challenge was something that definitely attracted me towards the server. Because it wasn't just some random dude in his basement hosting yet another stock Trinity Core Wrath server. I started leveling a mage, and throughout my leveling journey, I found very few things wrong with the server. Now yes, Primal WoW had a very low population, an average of about 150 to 250 people after me and Dodgy gave it a bit of exposure. But the limited amount of people that were there were very friendly and really cared about the community of the server and welcomed new players with open arms. It was not long after that I joined a guild called Vanilla Knights, and I raided with them for I believe a year or so. Together we progressed through Molten Core, Onyxia, Zul'Gurub, Blackwing Lair, Ankiraj, and eventually Nax Ramos. And while the custom nerfs and buffs were at some times a little too much, the dev team were always engaged and were constantly monitoring how hard certain raids were. And it's safe to say that this idea and the way they delivered it was in my opinion pretty darn impressive, and it forced our guild to rethink some of the old run-of-the-mill strategies. Also, being able to raid as a Moonkin or a Hunter and actually be competitive on the DPS meters was also super interesting. So yeah, Primal WoW was in my opinion an amazing server when I played there, with its unique twist, originality, great community, and for the most part great scripting. And then we move on to number 2. Now this is a big one, Nostalrius. I know that Nostalrius and the drama surrounding it played a really big part in us actually having Classic WoW right now. So in terms of its contribution to legacy servers and Classic WoW, this would be number 1 by a long shot. But this is a list about the servers themselves, so let's just focus on that for now. So yes, Nostalrius, a Blizz-like server run by a small team of enthusiasts. There was no cash shop, no vanity items you could buy, no nothing. It was just a Blizz-like vanilla server and a labor of love from the people that ran it. Of course, their population was unlike anything people have ever seen before. I mean, there were servers out there with a big population, like Warmane's Ice Crown server, which is a bit controversial, I know, but there are admittedly a lot of real players playing there. But that's a different story for a different video. The population on the Nostalrius server was gigantic. There's just no other words to describe it. Almost every place you went to, whether it was Orgrimmar, the Crossroads, Gadget Sand, it was just packed with people. And well, as much as people loved this server, myself included, Nostalrius definitely wasn't perfect. On launch date, there were many people that couldn't even play because they couldn't even get past the login screen, like me. And because there were so many people playing there, Nostalrius definitely had times where the server was lagging a lot. And of course, tagging mobs and farming nodes was, well, quite an experience. Let's just say you had to be patient with trying to get a certain amount of items for a quest or trying to level up your mining. Despite these issues though, Nostalrius was a wonderful server. The community was awesome and cities really felt like cities with tons of people roaming around. Unfortunately, I didn't play there a whole lot because of the same reason I didn't play the Emerald Dream. I just didn't have enough motivation to level a character to max level on a 1x rate experience server, especially considering the vast amount of people trying to level up besides you. All in all, Nostalrius was probably one of the biggest highlights, and it showed that private servers aren't all just a buggy mess with weird content and devs doing super shady stuff behind closed doors. And it convinced many news outlets that the demand for the old World of Warcraft version was definitely something to take into consideration. So despite it being a little rough around the edges, it definitely deserved to be on this list. So, what is number 1 then? Well, I thought long and hard about this. You see, there are iterations of WoW that I like more than others. For instance, Burning Crusade is, and probably always will be, my number 1. And while a server like Phoenix Archangel, which I put a lot of time and effort in, was a Burning Crusade private server that I had a lot of fun on, in terms of quality, it wasn't exactly that great. Same went for any other Burning Crusade private server I played on. They were pretty okay at best. So that got me wondering, if I would take out my bias for what expansion I liked the most, and take out the bias of where I had the most fun on, what server would I deem to be number 1 in terms of quality? Well, after thinking about it, only one server came to mind. And that server is Tauri WoW's Mist of Pandaria server called Evermoon. Oh yes, a Mist of Pandaria server. Now, Mist of Pandaria is far from my favorite expansion. Hell, if I had to make a top 5, it would probably be in 4th place, after Burning Crusade, Classic, and Wrath of the Lich King. But I have to be honest here and say that in terms of quality, this server is the best private server I have played on. The scripting here is amazing. There's countless times where I completed a quest and I saw dialogue and animations for the first time, never knowing that on previous private servers they actually didn't work as intended. And leveling here was a super smooth experience. No lag, no bugged quests, no weird mobs spazzing out like they ate 10 pounds of sugar. It was amazing. So amazing that after thinking about this, I went back to Tauri to level a character again and see if it was as good as I remembered. And as it turns out, yes, it is as good as I remembered. This balanced druid that I leveled from 1 to 90 and one that I did some endgame stuff with was the character I used to rediscover Tauri WoW, and after writing down and looking at all the private servers I played on, I could only put this one on the number 1 spot. Not only is it, in my humble opinion, the best Mist of Pandaria server out there by far, it is one of the best private servers I have ever seen and experienced in the hundreds, if not thousands of private servers that have launched over the years. I know that's a bold claim, but I think that this server is just that damn good. So there you have it, folks, my top 5 of the best private servers that I played on. I know you think there might be 1 or 2 servers missing, but keep in mind it's only about the servers I experienced myself, and naturally I didn't play on every single private server out there. And as always, I want to thank you for watching this video. I'm Hamsterwheel, and have a good one.